Alrighty, so we've been building to this point, which is our ability to now do work locally and push to GitHub. And this process you will do over and over again as you work in this class. But this first part is just some setup step that you need to do. I've already done it, but I'm just going to show you in general. Like this is the command, and you could copy up to here, and then you would type in. You could like copy here, right? And then now in VS Code. Now you don't have to be in any particular directory to do this, but you can just you could paste that. I'm going to hit my arrow key over, so now I can actually input, right, my there we go, right? And now I've already got mine, so you'll want to do that one. And then you could now, just because you need to do the other one, user email, I could do it this way, right? Or I could copy over that same thing again. And then the email, is that with quotes? Yeah, so the second one is not with quotes. Very important to know that. Okay, so type in the email that you use to set up your user name on GitHub. And then to make sure they're there, you can just type list to show them. So you can see my username and my email that I use for GitHub. And then it shows me here as well some other edit setting. I'm not sure where that one gets set, but so do that first. Okay, so once you have that done and you can successfully do this last command, then you're ready to go on. Remember, these commands only need to be done once. All right, so at this point, we're actually ready to start doing work in the class. And there's commands I'm going to show you as I go through the process of updating files. And one thing on VS Code I want to show you. First is a setting. So under File, what you want to do is make sure autosave is on. If you don't have autosave on, then when you're when modifying files, what will happen is you will see a little icon that indicates there's a modified file, and you just want to. I always like as much automation that makes me more productive. So just go in here and select that. Again, if you don't, you have to manually save files every time you're ready to version control them. So let's just go into our private repo. Okay, we have two files in here right now. Okay, we have that git ignore I had you set up before, and you can see here it is. We have that readme file that I had you set up for that one. And did I have you do a readme file here? Oh, I did, but I forgot to type something in there. But let's actually do that. We can do either one. So one thing you want to do is when you're going to do version control, and you can do this either before or after you've modified the files, right? So we're actually going to update the file. So let's go to we'll go to the public one. It doesn't really matter. We'll end up probably doing both. So in here, right, I'd go look at the other one. How was that one done? It did do that, but then so I'm just going to copy the one from the other one. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to paste that over. And by the way, this is what's called markup, markdown. And markdown, you'll learn, this is going to create a heading. And so in this case, I'll type private so that I will know on this README file which folder I'm in. Now, this doesn't really show me the folder, but what it does do, and notice immediately as I do that, it changes color over here. It shows as yellow. And what that means is I've done a change to my file. Okay. And now what I want to do is do these commands that I've shown you, right? So we're going to do git status. But if I do git status, and I want to show you this right here at this place on the terminal, okay? If I type git status, and I want you to see this, so if it happens to you, you won't go, oh my God, what's wrong? If you get this and you type and you get this fatal error, all that means is that your current directory is not setting in one of these repo folders, so it's saying it's not a git, because this base folder we created was not a git repo. It was just a folder in our local system, but these two were. So there are a couple ways. You can either do cd, change directory, and then actually type out like the public repo that we were in. We could do that. And actually it shows you we're on what's called the main branch. We'll learn a little bit about branches maybe. And so now I know I'm on that branch. I know I'm on that repo. But one of the things I like to do, because you may be changing this very often, is right clicking and then just say open an integrated terminal. And what that will do is, without having to type CD, although it's good to know how to do it, you can just have it open automatically. Notice what happens here is you get multiple bash sessions. So if you do it that way. So again, if I close this out, and I came over here and did that same command in my private, and I said open an integrated terminal, then it's going to open that folder. Now, I'm going to go back to the other one because I just want to show you first how to do that. Now, notice I have 3 of these open, and I might get confused. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to get rid of those 2. Now I know I'm in my public. I do know there's something different here, and we're getting ready to do the Git workflow. And the first command that I'm going to do is git status. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm in this right repo folder that you are working in. So I'm going to type git status. And so what git status is going to tell me is, hey, you have, which, by the way, let me just show you. I think this is probably good to show you. Maybe this won't get confusing. I'm going to have them both open. This is going to be the private, because if I did that same command over here, it's going to say there's nothing to commit, because only on the public one did I modify anything. And it's going to tell me, hey, changes have not been staged. And so it even tells me what I want to do here is just say git add and then the file name. I'm going to show you a little what we call wildcard, right? So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do git add. So what this does is it adds the changes I've done into GitHub. And I'm just going to do star. I'm going to say, hey, any changes I've done at this point, just go ahead and add them. I could reference just the file, and there may be times you want to do that. But in this case, I'm going to do this. And as soon as I do it on my public, right, what happens is that, okay, it adds it, but the colors still haven't changed, because that's just one step along the process. Because now what I want to do, and we've done git status, we've done git add, and now we're doing the all important commit. Now commits you'll learn about next week, because those are important for you to understand. So I'm going to do git commit as far as how they work in this class. But for today, we're just going to say updating. Oh, I clicked off updating README file in public repo. Now, these can be shorter. You'll see them later. But once I hit commit, right, and now this command, you do have to do it specifically. Notice how the colors change, right? So those colors are trying to help you understand what has changed and what needs to be staged and added, right? So these commands we're learning is what you'll hear me call the GitHub workflow. Okay, that's what this is that we're doing really here. So we've done git status, git add, a specific file. We've done git commit with a commit message, and I've shown you one. Doesn't matter here which one you use. And now what we would need to do, and I want to show you this, I'm going to actually go over to GitHub, and I'm going to go to CIT93. So here, because we're modifying the public, you will see that README file has still got the old version. And that's because all the work we've done prior to this has gotten us ready to actually now push code. And you might think of this as copying code over, but pushing code is really, and it's the command itself. So it's good just to know. So now we're going to push this, and it's a very simple command. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. I'm going to type git push. Okay, so now when I type git push on this public repo for the files that I have already staged, right, added and committed, now when I do git push, it will actually, at this point, hopefully you get something message like this. There actually is another what we call parameter you can add in there, but in general, you're in this folder, it should work fine. But what this did, now if I come over here and I hit refresh, right, this now updated that file, that README file, with the additional information that I placed in it. Okay, now it's important to understand this is once you clone locally, you do not want to modify these files on GitHub any longer. And if you do that, it becomes out of sync, or what we call conflicts. Now, it's easy to resolve them, but in general, when you're newly programming or newly using this development environment locally, And what you want to do is only modify files locally and then do the Git workflow to push that code into GitHub. Okay. And that's just important to understand because I have had students more than once they're here and they something didn't line up and they couldn't figure out why that update wasn't out there, it wasn't working. They would come over here and hit edit, and they would edit this file, and then when they would come later to try to do the Git workflow, they'd get errors, and it's just kind of, it's not fun to get errors, but sometimes getting errors is also just about learning how the system works. Okay, so reach out. I have a video I can send you for how to fix conflict, so it's not as if it's not as if you broke something we can't fix or help you out with. And that's an important part of this discussion, is understanding that, I know this first part can feel like a lot. But just know that now we use this setup for the rest of the class. That's why it's important. I mean, it's actually fundamentally important for you to get this part for moving on. Okay, so what I want you to do now is submit this, right? So what I'll have you do is on your own now, what I want you to do is go in to your local system here and now do the same thing, but over here I want you to add a line that says submitting for completed dev environment setup. Okay. And now on your own, I'm going to give you a little hint, right? Open an integrated terminal, which, by the way, I still had it open over there, but no big deal. Now I would do this version, these steps, right? And do this on your own and then hit push. So when you push, what you're going to end up having is a new updated private, right, repo URL and that new updated README. And so what I want you to do now is, once you get that complete, copy this. And again, I want you to give me your private one, and that just shows me you're kind of paying attention here at the end. And then what you're ready to do is actually submit this file or submit this URL. Okay, so let me switch over to the student view just so you can see what that looks like as for this last step. Okay, so here we go. So you're actually ready to submit this development environment. You'll start the assignment. You'll submit the URL, right? And again, make sure if you have any problems here, I'm actually going to have you on the next item report if anything that you ran into, and you actually don't want to wait until the next item. You want to do that here. So we'll go ahead and submit that, because you can't, as you already know, hopefully, based on the discussion at the beginning, the way this course is set up, it forces you to move sequentially through the items. So now it's time for me to go record who's in the house, and then it'll be time for you, once you have this set up, to move on. All right. Good job moving through this. Again, reach out for help if you need it.